Hi guys, and welcome back to Naturally Ellie. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own homemade all-natural deodorant. Now if you watched my lip balm tutorial, then this is going to look very familiar. There are just a few ingredients that are slightly different because of course with your deodorant you want to make sure that it is an antiperspirant and absorbs odor as well, which you don't have to worry about with a lip balm. So I have all of the ingredients here, and before I get started I just wanted to talk to you about some of the different ingredients that you can use because I'm not going to use everything that I have here. So the first thing I want to point out is you'll find a lot of deodorant recipes online with baking soda. So as you can see here, I have a very large bag of baking soda because I use it for cleaning and cooking, and I have used it in my deodorant. I'm not sure that I'm going to use it today. I want to this is only the second time I'm making my own deodorant, so I want to see the difference without the baking soda and see which way I like it better. So the reason you might want to consider not using baking soda is I have seen a lot of people say that they get sort of a reaction from the baking soda. They'll get a rash, and that's the last thing that you want from your deodorant. Personally, I did not get a rash. I didn't have a bad reaction to the baking soda, so I can actually continue using that if I want to. But as I said, I'm going to try it without and see if there's any benefit that I find with or without the baking soda. So if I use the baking soda, then I'm also likely to use cornstarch. It's about a half a cup of each of those if you're going to use that. I'll put all of the different options for you in the comments as well, so whether you're using baking soda and cornstarch or the alternative that I'm going to show you, I'll put all of the different alternatives in the recipe for you. So I know that in terms of cooking, cornstarch will thicken things up, so if you're making like a sauce and it's coming out a bit runny, you would add some cornstarch so that it will thicken up. I don't know exactly what it does in the deodorant, so I think I didn't use that the last time, so I don't really know for sure. But it's an option. If you have it on hand and you want to use it, it's something that you can use. It is a powdery substance. Because it is a thickener, it will absorb moisture, so I guess that's why it was included in the recipe. Same thing with the baking soda. It absorbs moisture, and with the baking soda, it also absorbs odor, which is exactly what you want from your deodorant. You want it to be antiperspirant and anti-odor or deodorant. Okay? If you don't want to use those, or if you have an allergic reaction, as I mentioned, some people have said they had, then you can use arrowroot powder. So I did use the arrowroot powder. It's a more natural starch flour that can be used in place of the baking soda. It can be used actually in place of both the baking soda and the cornstarch. Or if the cornstarch is being used to thicken up the mixture, then you might also want to consider using some xanthan gum or psyllium husk powder, because those are both thickening agents. So it's up to you about the texture of the deodorant, how you want it. I was comfortable without the xanthan gum or the psyllium husk, so I'm just going to use the arrowroot today and show you the results. Okay. Now, the ingredients that are exactly the same as the lip balm is we're going to be using beeswax, shea butter, and coconut oil. So those three ingredients, the beeswax is meant to solidify your deodorant, making it more solid so that it's more of a typical deodorant texture. And then the coconut oil and the shea butter are to moisturize and make sure that you're not like drying out your skin, and makes it easier to kind of smoother to apply. And the same as with the lip balm, I'm going to be making all of this in my double boiler. If you don't have a double boiler, don't worry about it. You can still make this at home. What I would suggest is that you get a small pot and a glass or metal bowl that will be able to sit on top of it. Now you want to make sure that the bowl has some kind of a lip or is big enough, is wide enough that it won't touch the bottom of the pot beneath it, because you want to give the pot room to have the water boil without coming up and outside of the pan. So mine is empty right now. I'm going to go ahead and put water. You want to fill the bottom portion of your double boiler or the pot that you're going to use only about halfway. However much you fill it, you want to make sure that the top portion that's going in is going to be able to sit flat like this. You don't want it so much water that it's going to be a bit wobbly, because as soon as it starts boiling, this is going to start rattling and whatever you have in here is going to start spilling, and nobody wants that mess. So I'm going to go ahead and get my water. I'm just going to make sure that this can sit flush and also is touching the bottom of the water or the top of the water. Okay, so now I'm going to put this on to boil, because I want to make sure that when I start putting my ingredients in, it's nice and hot and we'll start melting them. You want to be careful of the order in which you put your products in. The beeswax has a higher melting point, so you want to put that in first, and the shea butter and coconut oil have much lower melting points. So if you put the coconut, I think the coconut oil has the lowest melting point. So if you put that in first, it's going to burn before your beeswax pellets even start to melt. So you want to be mindful of that. Also, when you put the beeswax pellets in, you don't want to put them in by themselves, because you'll be there for a very long time waiting for them to melt. So typically I like to put the beeswax and the shea butter in together so that the shea butter melts a little faster and helps bring the beeswax pellets to the melting point faster. So I need 2 tablespoons of beeswax pellets, 2 tablespoons of my shea butter. Okay, when I did the lip balm tutorial, it was late summer, early fall, so my shea butter was still super soft. Now that we're in the middle of winter, it's a little harder, so it's going to be a bit more brittle when I'm breaking it off. So I'm going to leave it in the bag so that I'm not making a mess as I'm scooping it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to jam pack this in, just 2 tablespoons. Okay, and then I'm just going to use the ladle that came with my double boiler to help scoop this out and start stirring this around. And I will do the coconut oil last, because as I said, it has the lowest melting point and I don't want it to burn before my beeswax pellets get to melt as much as I need them to. While I'm waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and measure out my arrowroot. If you're using baking soda and cornstarch, use a half cup of each of those. Since I am using the arrowroot, I'm going to use a full cup of the arrowroot. And it sounds like this is starting to boil. So you hear it's making a funny little buzzing noise. That's just the water starting to boil and knocking the top portion of the double boiler around. And just to show you, the beeswax pellets are starting to stick to my shea butter. So I'm just going to keep stirring this around until the shea butter melts. And once it gets further along, I'll then go ahead and get my coconut oil and add it to this. This is starting to boil over a little bit, so I'm just going to turn my heat down to keep it from boiling over. Everything's starting to melt down pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and get my coconut oil. For this, you're going to want 6 tablespoons. And with all of your ingredients, you're going to want to make sure that they're all natural and organic whenever possible. Again, if you watch my lip balm video, you're going to see a difference in the consistency of my coconut oil. As I'm trying to do this, it is a bit more solid than when I was making the lip balm. Again, just because of the time of year and the temperature. That was late summer, early fall, and we had a very mild fall this year, so it was still really warm. into the fall, and now it's winter and it's colder, so my ingredients are in more of a solid state. Okay, so that was 12 half tablespoons, so basically 6 tablespoons of coconut oil. As you can see, I'm making a big mess as I'm doing this, so it can be messy. I also don't take the time and care to be neater about it. I know I should, but if you're a neater person, it should go smoother for you. But as I said, I don't take the time and care to be as neat as I could be. So my beeswax and shea butter have all melted. Now I'm just waiting for the coconut oil to melt as well, and then I'll add my arrowroot. Now this recipe will get me 3 of these deodorant containers. The original recipe that I found made about 1.5, and I only made it once before. So I put the half into a little jar and gave it to my daughter so she can try it out. I don't know if she used it or if she liked it or what she did with it. But so I've only made my deodorant once before. So this time around, I'm doubling the recipe that I found so that I can put it into 3 of these containers. At the moment, right now, I don't remember how big this is, but I will find the link to where I bought it so that I can show you where you can get it and what the size is. Some people, again, because plastic is not really environmentally friendly, I have seen people put it in mason jars. So I do have kind of a sample of a jar that you can use. You can put your mixture in here and then just use your fingers to swipe it out and apply your deodorant. Personally, I don't want to be touching my deodorant, not because there's any chemicals. The beauty of this is there are no chemicals because you're making it yourself. But I still just prefer to, pop the top and swipe my deodorant so that I don't have it lingering on my fingers. So now my coconut oil is also melted. So everything is now nice and melted down. And now I'm going to take my arrowroot, my 1 cup of arrowroot. And there's more of a mess. So my 1 cup of arrowroot, and I'm going to go ahead and slowly stir this in. You don't want to just dump it in. You're going to slowly stir it in, little by little. Turn this off now that everything is melted. So you want to be fast enough so that everything doesn't harden, but you also don't want to just dump the whole thing in because it's going to get clumpy and the arrowroot's not going to dissolve the way you want it to. So that's why you're going to leave it on top of the bottom boiler so that it still stays warm, but also allows you time to stir and let the arrowroot dissolve in properly, or your baking soda or cornstarch, xanthan gum, whatever it is that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a link for you to check out the lip balm video, and you'll be able to see there the consistency of what the oil should look like before you start adding in your dry ingredients, only because I didn't have the ability to take the picture right now. The color of your deodorant is going to depend on what kind of ingredients you're using. Beeswax pellets come in all different shades from white to a dark yellow. So depending on what you have and what you use, that can change the color of your final result. I used a mixture of baking powder and arrowroot last time, so it did come out a white color. I'm going to assume that this is going to be about the same because baking soda and arrowroot do look a lot alike. I feel like the arrowroot might be just slightly finer. And I'm sorry, I keep saying baking powder, but that's baking soda. There is a difference between the two, so that is baking soda, not baking powder. And I also did not take into account the fact that I doubled my recipe, so this bowl may not be big enough for what I need. So I'm hoping that it does the job. So as you can see, it's not really thick, but it's a milky white type of color. It looks more like if you took milk and butter and melted them together. That's kind of the color and consistency that you'd get. As you can see, I'm still continuing to make more of a mess. But I have my own homemade cleaner that I will be using to clean all of this up, and I can do another video on that and show you how to make your own all-purpose cleaner. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on just to the lowest possible setting, just so that my mixture can remain warm and melted while I'm still mixing in the rest of the arrowroot. Again, I don't want it to start solidifying before I'm done mixing it in. Okay, so you want to keep stirring that until it's a nice, smooth consistency. As you saw, I kept kind of dribbling, doing this, because I want to make sure that I don't have a lot of chunks in there from the arrowroot powder. So you see it's nice and smooth. If you find any chunks, you want to try to break them down so that you don't have them in your final batch. And the last thing that we're going to add to this is you want to add your essential oil. You don't have to. Sorry, this is starting to boil again, so it's making noise. So the last ingredient you want to add is essential oil, and there are two reasons you can do this. One is for just a scent, and the other is for any benefits that the essential oil that you're using may have. I've gone through a lot of the different essential oils that I use and some of the benefits to them. You can check out my hair routine video where I went into a lot more on the different essential oils and their benefits. What I'm using today is just coconut lime verbena. I'm using this for the scent and no other reason. There is no other benefit to this that I am trying to get out of this. Personally, I'm the type of person that if I like a scent, I will wear it regardless of the time of year. So even though this is more of a summery scent, I will wear it all year round. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and put it directly. Let me turn this off now. I'm going to let this cool just slightly, and then I'm going to add my essential oil directly into this batch. Again, this is going to make 3 sticks of deodorants for me. So if you don't want the same scent in every stick, then I would suggest that you pour the mixture into your deodorant, wherever you're going to put it, into the stick or into a jar, wherever you're putting it. Put it in there first and then add your essential oil. So the recipe that I made, the amount that I made, calls for about 20 drops of essential oil. So you can go ahead and divvy up your essential oil into the different containers. A lot of this, the amounts I've used are not set in stone. Play around with it, figure out the consistency that you like, the texture that you like. I will say that the arrowroot, because I have it all over my hand, is a very silky texture, so it's gonna help the deodorant just glide on. The beeswax again helps to solidify your product. So if you feel like this recipe is a little too soft for you and it melts too easily for you, then go ahead and add more beeswax so that it becomes firmer. The first time that I made my deodorant, I started in August, and it was the peak of summer in New York when it's in upper 90s. So I will say, if you're gonna start trying natural deodorant, this time of year, winter, is probably the best time for you to start making that transition, because it allows your body to adjust from using the chemical-based ones to this. I typically am not a person that sweats, so I'm not really concerned about that portion, antiperspirant portion of the deodorant. So I can't say 100% how well this works. I will say in 90-degree weather, it's not gonna absorb all of the moisture. I did get a little bit of sweating, but not so much that it was like I looked crazy and, you know, had huge pit stains. It wasn't that bad, but I felt, you know, the moisture. Again, I'm not the person that typically sweats, so I'm not the best person to go by on terms of that. So if you are going to transition and you're going to try it out, I suggest doing it in the colder months where you perspire less, so you can get an idea of, you know, is this right for you? Or there what you should tweak? Maybe you need more baking soda to help absorb that moisture. Maybe you need, you know, whatever it is. I would say try now. If you do it in the summer, just be prepared that you may sweat more, and in the beginning there may be a bit of odor, because again, your body is getting used to this new way of deodorizing. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in now. And then I would also caution you, when you're using your essential oil, be mindful of the properties of the oil. When I made it back in August, I did use lavender, but lavender is also known to promote hair growth. I also did see somewhere online where for hair removal you could also use it, so it's a little confusing. But you know, while lavender smells great, I don't want to promote hair growth under my arm, so that's why I'm switching it up this time and not using the lavender. I did feel like I had to shave a little bit more often than I normally do when using that, so that's just one of those things that you want to keep in mind when making your own natural deodorant. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more. This is a very strong, powerful scent, but I do things overboard all the time. That was another 10 drops, so all in all I use 30 drops, so that's basically 10 drops per deodorant stick that I'm making for myself. And again, trial and error. If you like the way it smells, you know, with 20 drops, if you like the way it smells with just 5 drops, if you don't want any drops because you want unscented and you just want the deodorant, you can go ahead and do that as well. But I'm one of those people that will walk past you and somebody will say, "Ooh, what's that smell?" Thankfully, it's always a good scent. I've been known to wear a lot of vanilla and coconut scents, so a lot of times I get a lot of compliments on that. So that's, again, I'm wearing coconut lime verbena. I have been using that in my hair oils, and I have been complimented on the smell, especially if I see somebody within an hour of me showering. They'll say, "Ooh, that smells good." So again, personal preferences on the type of scent that you like, personal preferences on how strong you like the scent. You just want to make sure that you don't go overboard, because I mean, you have plenty of carrier oils. Again, I discussed carrier oils in my hair routine video. Carrier oils like coconut oil, shea butter, and the beeswax, those are all carriers, so you're not putting the essential oil directly on your body, because they are concentrated and can have, you know, your skin can have a reaction to it if you put it directly on. So you have plenty of carrier oils, just don't go too crazy with the essential oil. Okay, so this is good now, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into my containers. And I'll set all 3 up so I can try to get it as even into each of them as possible. The benefit of using a double boiler is that it does have these little lips that make it easier for pouring. If you don't have that, you can always use a funnel to help direct the liquid into your container. So even with that, I still have some left over, so I'm going to see if that'll actually fit in a whole nother container. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but it didn't fill the container. It's about up to here. So that's really not that bad either. So it's about 3 and, well, like I don't know, 3 3/4 of deodorant sticks. Again, I don't recall the size of those sticks, so I will find that out for you. And that's it. I have a whole big mess to clean up behind me right now, but again, that's just because I was careless. And that's it. Simple and easy. Again, if you've already made the lip balm that I've shown you how to make, then this is pretty simple and easy. The only thing you're adding in is the dry powder ingredient, and that's what makes the majority of the mess here. So let me know if you try making your own deodorant yourself. Let me know what scents you use and what things you may have tweaked in your recipe. Again, trial and error, find what works for you. You can use baking soda, but if it has an adverse reaction, then you can switch to arrowroot so that you don't have that reaction. And, you know, up the beeswax if you want something more solid. Use a glass jar instead of a plastic container. I think I did find something else that would be a happy medium for me. But as you see, I have plenty of deodorant to last me for a while now that I won't need to worry about that until this is done. Another tip that I would give you is if you're doing this for the first time and you're transitioning from a traditional deodorant to your own homemade deodorant, maybe keep the old deodorant container, clean it out really well, and pour your mixture into there. That's another way to help you recycle. As I mentioned, I did buy these online, so once they're done, I can also clean them out and reuse them. So simple, easy, all natural, no aluminum, no other harmful ingredients that you get in commercial deodorants. As I said, be mindful of the time of year that you're making the switch. So, you know, you may have to apply it a couple of times if you're doing it in warmer weather. So if you're maybe down south or on the west coast where it's kind of warmer all the time, be a little mindful that in the beginning you are going to have to apply the deodorant more often than you would a commercial deodorant, just because, again, your body is trying to get used to this new all-natural way of deodorizing it. And that's it. So let me know how it goes for you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!